Hello my beautiful friends and welcome back to our channel. My name is Beck. I'm a professional mindset coach with a background as a medical doctor. I'm also the founder of the group coaching program Dare Darling, where successful women are doing the work to overcome their perfectionism, imposter syndrome and people pleasing so that they can finally express themselves and assert themselves in the ways that are meaningful to them in their lives, in ways that create the life they want, in ways that have them show up to their life in a way that creates the results, the fulfillment, the pride that they want to feel about and in their lives. This is a space that's so important for so many women, where so many of us have been trained to be good and to be kind and to do the right thing above taking care of ourselves, above serving ourselves, above doing what we think is right and good and kind, not just for other people, but also for ourselves. We are made for more than just ticking the boxes and doing the right thing. You have a mission inside of you, and not only will it change the world when you let it come out, but it will change the world for other women when you start valuing yourself enough, backing yourself enough to invest in yourself and invest in your mission and put yourself first. Because one of the most detrimental things to our society is the idea that women shouldn't put themselves first, that we can't put ourselves first, that it's not kind or good or right to put ourselves first, and that a woman's role is to sacrifice, to give, to be generous. To give and to sacrifice, to be generous, to be kind, to be nice are all wonderful things, but the key is that at the moment a lot of us are doing it at our detriment, at an unacceptable cost to ourselves, in a way that is in conflict with what's in our integrity, with what we think is right. So if that feels like work that is important for you at this point in your life, come along to Dare Darling. You will be in good company and you'll be constantly surrounded by, inspired by, motivated by other women who are tackling and overcoming these challenges alongside you. Now in today's video, I want to talk about an important consideration, an important question to ask yourself when it comes to these situations where you're having a disagreement with someone or a misunderstanding with someone. This can be any context, from the professional setting to your most personal, intimate relationships. Although hopefully it doesn't come up in your personal relationships anywhere near as much as it does out in the big wide world. Being aware of or considering that some people want to misunderstand you. Some people are determined to hold their opinions of you in the face of even conflicting information, even in the face of you telling them that they're wrong about you. You're the only one who can know your thoughts and opinions, your intentions, all this important stuff that other people want to know about you. Let's just take the example of somebody giving you their interpretation of you, which was that you didn't care. In a professional setting, they might be saying, you didn't put enough effort into this presentation. You didn't care enough to stay late. When I look at this patient consult, it just looks like you half did it. You didn't really care. Or say you're in a case presentation or a morbidity and mortality meeting, you're debating how a patient was managed, and somebody is saying, oh, if you cared about that patient, you would have done X, Y, Z. And in a personal setting, we can use the same example and say, because you didn't do this for me, or because you said this, it means you didn't care. So in this situation, the other person has taken a behavior that you've done, and they have interpreted what that must have meant about what you were feeling or thinking, or feeling and or thinking. So in the cognitive program, they see your behavior, what you did, and then in this conflict, in this misunderstanding, they're reading your mind and they're saying, so that must have meant, if you did that behavior, that must have meant that you didn't care in your thoughts and feelings up here. Now this can be very hard for the person over here, receiving this interpretation of their behaviors, I'm talking about in this context. It can be hard for you when you're receiving this interpretation that you didn't care, if that's something you care about, if they are wrong about you in that situation. And the normal functional adaptive thing to do here would be to say, oh, wait a minute, there's a misunderstanding. Perhaps it's true that I did that behavior or I created that result, but I just want to clear up that It's not because I didn't care. That wasn't the emotion and thought. You wouldn't necessarily use these words unless somebody else had gotten coached, but that wasn't the driving intention, the driving force behind my behavior. That's just a misunderstanding. And in a conversation where somebody is genuinely trying to understand what happened, what went wrong, or trying to understand you, in a conversational conflict where you're genuinely trying to move towards understanding, then that prompt from you would either then be accepted by the other, because of course, how can they know your thoughts and emotions? When you tell them what your driving force was behind your behaviors, all they can really do is believe you. And if they don't believe you, if it doesn't make sense to them, then the other normal thing to do would then be to bring up the objections, to keep investigating this misunderstanding of how it was a lack of care behind that behavior. Now, what I want you to be astute to here is, if the conversation from the other person's side, when you've signified that there is a misunderstanding here, if that conversation doesn't move in that direction, I want you to start being suspicious that in this moment, it's possible that this person isn't trying to understand you. I'm going to use some different language to really catch your attention here. They want to misunderstand you. They want to be right about you. They want to be right about your intentions here. They want to be right that the reason that you did what you did is because you didn't care. Now, we can all be guilty of this occasionally, when we just have a thought about somebody else and we accept it as true. We just believe it's true and we don't want to back down, usually because it's under our awareness. We just think that this idea that we created is correct. It can be hard for us as people to think that we're correct and then backtrack and say, oh, wait a second, I was wrong there. That can be hard. But in general, I would expect this level of awareness and humility and questioning of our thoughts, especially thoughts about another person, in a functional adult individual. I do just want to give some grace here though to the human condition, just to recognize that just because somebody's fixated on a thought doesn't make them a bad person. We just get stuck sometimes. Now, whether or not they are a bad person or a dysfunctional person or a functional person or whatever in this situation, what I want you to focus on is giving yourself the option to consider that sometimes people want to misunderstand you. And when you get enough evidence for that to suffice, then you get to make a different decision that will not only stop hurting you or wasting your energy in this situation, but that might actually help you. Because when you keep trying to create understanding with somebody who doesn't want to understand you, you are at best wasting your time. At that point, I see two main options. One is exit. What is the purpose of you staying in this conversation with somebody who is determined to misunderstand you, who isn't seeking understanding, who doesn't want any more clarifying information from you? And in that case, you can exit the conversation definitely, or you can plan to come back to it if you want to keep approaching that goal of understanding, perhaps when this person is in a less activated, more open state, if that's available to them. Secondly, it might feel in your integrity in that moment to make a final statement, to say in no unclear terms what is true for you, and then to exit. But I want you to be careful of what this might cost you here. Because remember, we found ourselves in a situation where we recognize that the other person isn't open to your opinion, your side of the story, your perspective. So I really want to ask you what you're gaining by making another statement. I really want you to check if that's in your integrity to do, because making a statement or making another offering, standing up for yourself or saying what's true to you in a situation where the other person is close to you, dismissing you, might not actually feel strong or empowered. It might actually feel like you're shouting but making no noise. It might feel like you're spending energy in a place that doesn't give anything back to you. And I can't say what's right or wrong in this situation. As with everything in coaching, there's no right or wrong. But I just want you to check in. I want you to get really interested in yourself. Next time this happens to you, or even just thinking theoretically in advance, what would be most integrous for me in this situation? How would I like to show up in this situation? So my beautiful friends, bring this concept into your life and let it help you when you find yourself in situations where you're constantly trying to create understanding in these relationships with other people, but recognizing that sometimes understanding isn't the goal for other people. Sometimes other people want to misunderstand you, and I want you to be able to use your energy accordingly. If you found this concept and these scenarios really useful and relevant in your life, then Dear Darling is the place for you. There's a link below if you want to join. I cannot wait to meet you, and otherwise I'll see you guys in my next one.